So the topic of retirement has come up in my world a lot this past week. And I thought it was interesting because I'm obviously nowhere near retirement for a multitude of reasons. But, I have talked with people about retirement. I actually had a colleague ask me today what I thought about retirement. And I thought it was really relevant to, the type of work I do and just even what I'm seeing in the corporate workspace right now, period. Corporate entrepreneurship, whatever you want to call it, right? Um, but retirement as we know it has very much had this idea of you get to enjoy your life once you're retired, right? So that means once I'm retired, I can do what I want. I can travel when I want. I can spend time with my loved ones as much as I want to. I don't have to get up and do anything or answer to someone. You know what I mean? Like we think when we get there, the stress is just going to be gone. And for some of you listening to this, you might be in your 30s and be like, I'm nowhere even near thinking about that. But stay with me because it's relevant. Okay. Because I am also only 37 and feel like I have so much runway ahead of me. I feel like I'm just getting started. Um, but there's still so much, even for us 30-year-olds, even 20-year-olds listening to this. Okay. Now, when you think about that concept, it is kind of sad, right? Because it's this idea of like, I don't fully get to enjoy my life till I get to that point, right? Which you can also relay back to the same high performer story of once I hit this milestone, I will relax. Once I make X amount of money, I will be happy. Once I have X title, I will have made it, right? We always rely on kind of these outer things to we rely on these external measures to bring us the satisfaction or the relief or the desired state that we're truly after, which is usually we want to feel happy, we want to feel at peace, we want to feel relaxed, we want to feel like we've accomplished things. Like these are always what we're after. It's never about the goal, the accolade, the money, the title. It's never about any of that. It's always about like what those things we think will bring us as far as an internal state, right? If you can feel happy finally, I'll do whatever it takes to finally feel happy, right? And retirement is kind of the same concept, but it's so much longer and further and drawn out where it's like, why would you spend, because when you think about it, once you're at retirement, you're at 60, 70, 80% of your life is already gone. It's like, why are we waiting so long to finally enjoy it? Like, why are we waiting so long to finally get out of life what I believe is the whole point of life, which is connection and joy and laughter and love? Like, it's so backwards, this society that we've created for ourselves by thinking we have to grind it out and then we get there. Now, is do I believe in grinding it out and hustling and putting your head down and getting to work when you're younger? Of course, because you have more energy, your body's more forgiving, all these things, but not at the expense of not experiencing any joy or love or connection. Like there has to be both along the way, and that might sound very like woo woo or like, okay, Minty, like in a perfect world, how does that exist? But it can exist. Like it absolutely can exist. But what needs to happen for that to coexist, for you to find that right harmony for yourself, is you have to be connected to who you are and what's truly important to you, right? Like you will always hear me say, the majority of things that actually burn people out are not like workload, are not being responsible for too many things. Those can add to it, but the root cause of burnout is all the things in the background that you are worrying about that are draining your energy: the control, the perfectionism, the neuroticism, the having to be, had to execute everything perfectly. What did this person say about this? What did they think about this? Did I handle this right? What's that meeting? Do I need to prepare? Like that's what's actually burning you out and draining you. And the root cause of burnout is disconnect. Okay. It's not this idea everyone has in their mind of you're just exhausted. It's you've become so disconnected from who you truly are as a human being, as a soul, as a heart, that you're just going through your days, filling your time with all this stuff, and none of it is actually enjoyable to you. None of it is actually refueling to you or fills up your cup. And it might not even be that way because you don't enjoy the work itself or whatever you're doing. It's what you have attached to it. Okay. So maybe you're working in an industry where you really like the work. Maybe it really interests you and you actually like being there and being surrounded by that. But that job has now become a source of needing external validation from someone, having to constantly prove yourself, having to earn your keep and prove that you're valuable and worthy day after day after day. Well, that pattern in behavior and cycle is what's draining you, not the job itself. So that's why I see a lot of people, they come to me and they're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I want to quit my job. And I always encourage them, like, before you make that decision, let's get you out of burnout. Because when you're in burnout, you're thinking in survival mode, you're thinking in fear and scarcity. You're not seeing the big picture. Or if we can get you out of burnout, we get you back into a regulated state, which just means you're more present and balanced in your body, the picture starts to shift. And then you can really decide, like, is this job actually not in alignment for me anymore? Or is it actually just because I was losing all this energy in the back end by, overthinking, over worrying, over processing, right? So when we go back to this concept of retirement, it's like, why would we live the majority of our life to only possibly enjoy the last part of it? Right. And even with that, another thing that I've been thinking about and paying attention lately is, like, my mom she's about to be 73, 72. She's about to be 72. And you know, so grateful for the fact that she's still very healthy. She forgets some things, like just typical old age stuff, but she's very mentally still there. She can still take care of herself. We were just in Italy in April, and she's walking 26,000 steps a day with us, no issues. She can still get up and off the ground with no help. She can do it herself. Like, she can squat in the garden and garden for hours on ends. Like, she's still so healthy, and a lot of her friends are not in that position anymore. And so when I observe her, I just constantly think about, like, what has kept her young? What has her allowed to stay in that state? And it's really simple. Um, my mom barely eats out. She eats at home as much as she can, and mainly because she came over after the war and she thinks eating out is a waste of money. So we were in Toronto a few months ago and we ordered a bunch of food for the whole family, and she's like, I'm going to cook for myself. So, like, that's just her. So she'll always cook for herself. So she's not eating processed foods ever. She eats a lot of fruit. She walks a lot. And she just keeps her life really simple, you know? And the other thing that's she makes a point of is, especially knowing her health is still good, she makes sure we go on trips, or she at least asks, and we're all usually on board with it. But she makes sure she's seeing us as much as possible. She makes sure that we're taking the trips when we can, we're having the experiences. And, like, again, she's choosing to live her life now. Now, again, she is retired. But my point is this, is that what keeps us young, what keeps us healthy are those things. Okay. I can promise you it's not sitting in an hour, 8 to 10, or not sitting in an office 8 to 10 hours a day. That's not what's keeping you young. Right. And you know that. As I say that to you, you know that in your heart, like, yeah, I know. Right. But our society is designed to keep us in that space, right? I was actually just listening. I know you guys hear me quote this all the time, but I was listening to the Diary of a CEO podcast the other day, and he had two ex-CIA agents on there. And I apologize, I can't remember their names right now. But if you go look it up, you can find it. And this married couple, had wrote a book about their time in the CIA. And what I found fascinating was, he talked about how the CIA trains them to lower their cortisol in high intensity situations. So essentially, it teaches them how to manage their stress. So when they're dealing with something that's obviously like life or death, or very dire or very, secretive, they know how to regulate their stress in the moment so that they can get back to making the best choice possible. And they're not thinking from fear and scarcity. But the other thing he talked about was validation. And he said what the CIA is great at, and also the type of people that it attracts, are people who are high performers, who are not necessarily money driven in the case of the CIA, but what they are driven by is recognition and validation. And he says that they empower their people to the point where they are elite and they're very good at what they do, but they keep them on the hook just enough to remain extremely loyal to the CIA and to make them think that that is the cream of the crop. Like they develop their people to the point where they're really, really good, but they stay good in the CIA. They don't go and do other things for themselves, right? And so the way they keep you hooked in though is with the validation, is with the recognition and the accolades and all those things. And that's really just how the corporate world works too. That's how really any external validation works, is we look for it from our peers or our clients or our leaders or whatever the case is, right? But then it's like, if that's your driving force, and that's what's keeping you on the hamster wheel, you're missing out on all the actual real parts of life, right? The moments to connect with your loved ones, the moments to be present and like take a hike and really take in the scenery with no phone, uh, the moments to be at your kids' recital, the moments to be laughing on the ground with your girlfriends, like these moments that we downplay, we often think that it's going to happen eventually, it's going to happen later. I know that was me. One day I'll have the time to do that stuff, one day that'll be a priority in my life, but it's like none of us are promised one day, and later honestly typically never comes. You know, like think about it. I'll do it later, and then just something else pops up. That's the way it always happens. But then eventually you finally pick your head up and you realize that how much of your life has gone by and you don't remember any of it because you weren't present, because you were chasing the external validation, you were chasing the accolades. And for the record, I am not judging anybody. That was me for many, many years, and I still have moments of it. I'm human, right? But what I've realized is that when that's your focus, you're literally robbing yourself of your life. Because what's the point of any of this if we can't experience peace and joy and love in the process? I will scream that from the mountaintop. Like, I don't know what's the point of being a human if we don't get to experience those things, right? Now, here's the thing. You might in your head be thinking, once I make X amount of money, I'm out. Or once I hit a certain age, I'm out. Or like, whatever that is for you. Maybe for you, if you're in your 20s or 30s or even 40s, maybe you're not happy where you're at work wise. And you're like, once I hit this, I'm out. Or maybe you are close to retirement. And once, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever timeline, deadline you've set for yourself, you're thinking, once I get there, I'll finally have the relief that I want. Okay. Now, here's the thing about the nervous system. I've said this a million times. You could be handed on a platter exactly what you want, but if you have not primed your body to exist in that state, it will deflect, it will reject, and it will come up with some crazy story in your mind as to why this won't work. Okay. So, for instance, if we're talking about retirement, okay, do you know how many retired people retire, but that they actually end up doing something else because their body can't sit still? Right? Like they get to be 60, 70s years old or whatever, and then they finally retire and they can do all these things, and they end up starting a side hustle or having a part-time job or whatever the case is, which by the way, I'm not opposed to. I actually think it's great if you can do that when you get older because it keeps your mind moving and it keeps your body moving. So I actually think it's good. But the other side of that is that if you've been only existing in survival mode and hustle for so long, that transition will be too difficult for you. Okay. It's the same thing, even like I have a client right now who's debating on whether he should take a sabbatical or not for a year and just go traveling for a year. Young, smart, great guy. And, you know, there's a very real factor of if he takes time off, if we don't prime his nervous system to understand how to have fun, to understand how to connect, to understand how to be present in the moment, if we just rip that band-aid and send him off, he's going to have a hard time transitioning. Now, it doesn't mean it's not going to work or it's not going to be incredible and beautiful, but his body's going to naturally feel uncomfortable. So the strategy right now is, how do we just incorporate more moments of that in your day-to-day life now, even with what you're doing currently for work and for life? How do we have more moments of joy? How do we have more moments of choosing your friends? How do we have more moments of choosing you instead of work all the time, to show your nervous system that it's safe to do that? right? And my point in this episode, because retirement has been coming up so much lately this week, is we shouldn't be waiting that long to do this. We should be teaching ourselves now at 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever it is, how to be able to integrate more fun and more joy and more love and more connection into our system now. Because that's what's going to light you up. That's what's going to give you fulfillment. That's what's going to give you drive and motivation and inspiration. That's what's going to open your heart. That is the fundamentals: fun, connection, love, joy. But you need to know how to exist in that space. Like, I've had many a client tell me, Minty, I don't remember the last time I had like a big full belly laugh at something. I can't even remember that. And that was me at one point, you know? And if you're thinking about life in general, like, it is way more useful to use this skill now when you're at the thick of it, when you're in the peak of like your busyness. Like, it's a skill set. Unfortunately, it has become a skill set to learn how to let your body relax and have fun and be present in the moment. And purely, it's a skill now just because we're in a perpetually heightened, dysregulated, stressed out society. It's just, there's constant stress. Not very long ago, there's a generation of humans that did not live this way. Okay. So we are being so overstimulated that the skill set of being able to be present and have fun and experience joy is something we have to remind ourselves of and reteach our body how to do, because it's not the natural environment that we're living in right now. Okay, so that's what I mean by skill set. Sounds trivial, but it's true, right? And when you think about the benefits of that skill set, it is way better and more effective for your overall life and your performance if you learn how to do that now, where you still have the energy and the time and the desire to still keep going. Because first of all, don't forget, love, connection, joy are refueling. They're regulating. They are what allow your productivity and your ambitions to be sustainable long term. If not, I promise you, on everything I love, you are on a slippery slope to burnout, resentment, and potentially depression. You might not think you are, but I've seen it very many times now. Okay. The way you prevent that happening is you have more joy, love, and connection in your life with others and with yourself. Right. And the reason it's important to learn how to incorporate that now is because when you're at the age of retirement, you don't really need it anymore. Like, it's a lot easier to access it. It's a lot easier to like, you're not going to have as many demands. You're going to be later, but you're also going to be later in life where your focus in life is going to be different. Like, wouldn't you want to learn how to be more present, joyful, and fun for yourself now, for your spouse, for your kids, just for your friends, for your work? Like, think how much better you'd be able to show up for everybody else if you learn to do that now. And then by the time you do decide to retire, it's natural for you. You're ready for it. You're ready to embrace it and step into it. And it's not a loss of identity or a loss of who you are. It's like, wow, I'm really ready for this next chapter in my life. Right. And what made me think about this is just even like, I was having a conversation with a friend about money, and they had a parent pass, and their other parent was holding on to the money from the father passing, and their mom was saying, I'm gonna, it's gonna be given to you either when I die or when you get to like more of a retirement age. And it was actually me and my mom talking about this, and it was like, she's like, it makes more sense to give your kids that money now. And I was like, well, why do you say that? And she's like, well, because you can do more with it now. She's like, you can invest in businesses. You can create something. She's like, you can multiply that money more now. And it's going to be way more impactful to your life if you get it now, obviously assuming you're responsible, versus later on in life. And that same lesson, that same theory I apply to just connection and love and fun and joy. And I keep repeating it, but that's the same concept. If you learn how to embrace those things in your life now, think about how that's going to set you up for the rest of your life. Like, I'll be honest, I don't even think about retirement anymore. And I know I'm 37, but because I really enjoy what I'm doing. So I don't really ever see myself having to retire from being a burnout coach or being a coach of whatever sort in general. Maybe that'll shift as I get older. I don't know. but I don't see myself ever having to shift from this because I genuinely love what I'm doing. And I'm also building my business and my company in a way that's sustainable. I'm not letting it take over my life completely and forget about all the other important things that are going on and that I'm building. I have found the right harmony for me where I'm building a business that's profitable, that's growing, that's making a huge impact on people, but I'm doing it in a way where I'm not sacrificing my health, my well-being, my happiness in the process. When I need a break, I need a break. If I want to go on vacation, I go on vacation. I fulfill all my need, or I fulfill all my obligations. I take care of my clients. I take care of what I need to take care of for me. And I have this really great harmony. And so like in my mind, if I keep building this business this way, I don't really ever have to retire because it's sustainable long term, right? And maybe you are someone who wants more of like a hard hitting and then a start and like a very direct stop. Maybe that's you too. But my whole point in this rant is to learn from retirement, whether you're there or not. It's to learn that why would we delay the very important things in life? Connection, love, family, joy, fun. Why would we delay those to experience them at a later date when the time where they're most impactful and valuable and and have the biggest effect on our overall quality life is now? It's now. So take this into consideration if you've been working really long hours, if you're feeling trapped by your job, if you're, you know, putzing around on the weekends, not doing anything fulfilling. Again, you guys know me. I'm not saying give up your ambitions. I'm not saying don't work hard. I'm not saying don't be focused and dial in. Like I'm not saying any of that. I know what it's like and you can keep doing it. But what you have to decide is if you're choosing to do those things, if they're actually in alignment with the type of life that you want to live.